So let me bring up the presidential campaign representative for Barack Obama to give some perspectives. That's Ned Helms. Ned?
Thanks, Scott. Thank you very much. My forte is not climate change. I run the Institute for Health Policy and Practice here at the university. And Cameron and I have been on panels together. And what happens is he shows his slideshow and scares the daylights out of me and gets me morally indignant that we're ignoring climate change. And then I show my slideshow about healthcare and get him outraged and morally indignant that in the richest nation on the face of the planet tonight, 48 million people will go to sleep without health insurance. So that's what we do when we're on panels together. I don't claim to be an expert on climate change, but I'm delighted to be here and briefly talk to you. One of the sentences in the press release for this really jumped out at me, and it said, candidates have barely discussed how they would address the issue of climate change. They're not talking, but they should. And one of the things that I did today to try and check on that was, I'm not an expert on climate change. So before I came over, what I did is I went out and I Googled Obama on climate change, and I saw that 3.5 million people had Googled the exact same question. I then Googled Obama speaks on climate change, and I found 281,000 hits, and I didn't look at all of them before I came over. But I did go to the first page, and the third one down was a link to YouTube, where there were only over 50 YouTube excerpts from all over this campaign in which the conversation has come up. And one of the things we're dealing with is not only the candidates and the conversation and us as citizens raising this issue, but also the degree to which it's covered. And this is such an important issue that it's a combination of both the candidates themselves and us. And we've got to make sure that we keep them urging this. I was pleased that when I went out and Googled it, I was able to watch 15 minutes from a town meeting in Council Bluffs, Iowa on April 7th of 2007, in which there was a long conversation out in Council Bluff about climate change. August 5th of 2008, in the Council of the World, a long speech that Barack Obama had given. And also I was pleased that predating the campaign, there was something called Energy Independence and the Safety of Our Planet, which was an address he gave on April 3rd of 2006, before he was a candidate and back when he was a US Senator. One other thing I want to do is I'd urge you to go out to barackobama.com and look at climate change and look at all the details on it, because I think it's tremendously important. I think you're absolutely right. The absence of America's voice at the international table on this issue for the last 8 years has been an outrage, and I believe that will end with this campaign. Because while I have a favorite, both have at least spoken to this issue, when in fact for 8 years we've been mute. The final thing, two final things. I'm going to quote you very briefly from what you'll find when you go out to the page. It says, this program summons the nation to face one of the great challenges of our time, confronting our dependence on foreign oil, addressing the moral, economic, and environmental challenge of global climate change, and building a clean energy future that benefits all Americans. And it talks about creating 5 million new jobs, investing $150 billion over the next 10 years, within 10 years saving more oil than we currently import from the Middle East and Venezuela, putting 1 million plug-in hybrid cars on the road by 2015, ensuring that 10% of our electricity comes from renewable sources by 2012 and 25% by 2025, and implementing an economy-wide program to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 80% by the year 2050. And towards the notion that we can't sit here at this little spot in the planet and deal with it, there's an important phrase that I pulled out. Understand that the only real solution to climate change requires all major emitting nations to join in the solution. While it is time for America to lead, developing nations like China and Brazil must not be far behind. We have to re-engage with the UN Framework Convention and the major economies. So that's what we need to do. I'm going to close because I'm not a climate change guy, I'm more of a health guy. But also, at the end of the day, to be very honest with you, I'm more of a political science guy. And I was invited to speak to St. Paul's School on election morning. So on November 5th, I'm going to be before St. Paul's School and talk to their student body. And I just wanted to share with you one of the things that I want to say to the students at St. Paul's School and to their faculty. What makes this election different to me, however, what sets it apart from the 10 other presidential elections that I've voted in during my life, is the urgency and attention it requires, not simply for the person for whom I will vote, but what I and all of you will be required to do. The times call out not only for a new leader and a new direction, but for a resurgence of our best selves. Thomas Paine once said, "The world is my country, all mankind are my brethren, and to do good is my religion." My message is that we must not only take on Paine's credo, not only must we advocate for the positions we believe of the candidates before us, but we must take that same advocacy ourselves. Thank you.
I wanted to again thank the campaign representatives who were here. It's not easy to, especially 1 week before an election, to stand up here and represent your guy or your gal and make the case to an audience that may have some tough questions and some stern glances. So I want to thank everyone who is here representing the campaigns. I'll move to the U.S. Senate now, and so that you have 2 seconds of background. I think it's important that you know that this wasn't the original genesis of the event that we tried to put together. This was originally supposed to be, we were hoping to be Mark McPeak and I, trying to make it literally a debate between the U.S. Senate candidates, between John Sununu and Jeanne Shaheen. Both campaigns expressed early interest and an energized interest, and were willing to get together and do a debate on this topic. And for reasons of schedule and just practical problems of getting them into the same room together, we were forced to, sort of at the last minute, make this kind of a change, which I think was still a very constructive one. And the reason I tell that story is because in talking to Paul Collins a lot at the Sununu campaign, who's their campaign chair over there, he made it very clear to me when we started talking about alternatives to the actual debate that they have a strong feeling from within that they really prefer John Sununu to speak for John Sununu. They like him to be at these events, they like to debate, they like to go back and forth and do the Q&A. And when they can't, they try to send well-meaning folks representing the campaign, like for tonight, Adam Hechavarria, right? Hechavarria. Cuban name, awesome name. Adam is here representing the Sununu campaign, and Adam is not going to make any statements to you tonight, but he's here, he's been taking notes, wanted to get a sense of what this event was all about so that they could bring it back for a meeting that they were going to have with Paul Collins and with Senator Sununu to talk about this. But we've also agreed that if there are any questions that you would have for him and for that campaign, that to please present to him your email, and that he would be happy to try to get some kind of a dialogue going, especially considering with a week to go, the time is right now to get some of those answers. So I just wanted to, Adam, why don't you stand up and just be recognized. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. And so if you have any connections you want to make with the Sununu camp, Adam is here. On the Democratic side, we have a representative for Jeanne Shaheen, former state senator and Republican Rick Russman, who is the leader of Republicans for Shaheen in the campaign, a former state senator from this area. And Rick is here tonight to share some thoughts from Jeanne Shaheen. Rick?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really proud to be here tonight, and I want to thank the sponsors for putting this on, and certainly done a magnificent job in terms of instilling some fear and instilling some hope, and kind of setting what the ground rules should be. I'm a lifelong Republican, and so you say, what's a guy like you doing here for Jeanne Shaheen? I had the good fortune of working with Jeannie